my name is Omowumi Olatibe. Welcome back to my channel. Now in today's video, I'd like to do a deep dive on the most talked about case right now. It's still an ongoing case, so there's no judgment made on the case as of this moment, as of the time I'm recording this video. Okay, but I'd like to pick up some legal lessons that I will want women especially to take account of. Okay, I think with that being said, let's get into the video. And if you want to follow the case fully, you can go to Rotten Mango's channel. Yes, the name of the channel is Rotten Mango. She gives you like a full breakdown of what is going on in the case. So she goes to court, she takes notes, and she tells us like everything that happens in the case. Okay, so I've been getting most of the action from our channel, so you can go there if you want to get the action yourself. But right now I'd just like to pick up the legal lessons that I want women to take account of. Okay, so let's get right into it. Okay, so now let me give you a little bit of backstory. Now in 2023, Cassie filed a lawsuit against her ex-boyfriend who was like a very popular music mogul in the 90s. Okay, his name is Sean Diddy Combs. So for the newer generations, you might not really know Diddy, but Diddy was really popular back then. He had power, status, money. He made artists. Okay, so it was like on everybody's name back then, and even till now, sort of. So in 2023, Cassie filed a lawsuit against her ex-boyfriend, which brought up series of abuse, physical, emotional, and also sort of like a sex trafficking thing. Brought up like a decade-long accusation of physical abuse, and there was a video to back it up. The next pattern that was also highlighted in court was the emotional manipulation. Diddy allegedly isolated Cassie from her friends and controlled her lifestyle. The last pattern that Cassie brought up is sexual coercion, or like Diddy likes to call it, freak offs. So this word is now popular, freak offs. So Diddy always loved Cassie to perform sexual acts to other men while he watched her do it, and most times with the aid of drugs and things like that to get her high and in the mood while she performs sexual acts on other men while Diddy watches this. So Cassie now is claiming that all these things, she didn't want to do them. She only performed these acts to please Puff Daddy. And now the battle in court is, who is saying the truth? Did she actually enjoy these freak offs, or is she just lying on Diddy's name just to get money out of him? So that's like the contention in the 2023 case that Cassie filed against Diddy. So after Cassie filed this case against Diddy, Diddy and his team settled out of court, and they paid Cassie a sum of money. It was like huge sum of money, and Cassie dropped the lawsuit. But unfortunately for Diddy, the damage has already been done. It was already out there to the public, so his reputation was not in total shambles, because nobody knows if it's the truth or not, but his reputation was, questionable. And months after that, the FBI raided Diddy's homes in California and Miami as part of a federal sex trafficking investigation. So now that tells us this issue is bigger than Cassie, and legally is about pattern and power, not just isolated incidents. Now that we have like a little background of what's going on between Cassie and Diddy, the next thing I would like to point out are the text messages. Okay, now I would like women to know that text messages, which are documentary evidence, documentary evidence are evidence that you can see. Okay, either on your text messages can also count as documentary evidence. Okay, so these messages can be used against you in the court of law. Okay, ladies, so you have to be careful with whatever you're sending to your man, to anybody. So if it's something you really don't want to do, please don't insinuate it via text message and insinuate like you enjoy doing certain things, because Cassie's messages were used against her in court. Okay, now in Cassie's case, a text where she said "I wish we could have freaked off before you left" was brought up to suggest that she enjoyed those encounters. Okay, so the defense counsel brought this up in court, saying that if Cassie did not enjoy these freak offs, if she's claiming duress or sexual coercion, why would she send a text message to a boyfriend at the time saying, "Oh, baby, I wish we could have freaked off. I really miss freaking off with you"? So can you see how this is contradicting Cassie's recent claim of sexual coercion? And this is one point I would like to bring up, because I've noticed that lots of people, especially when they're in a relationship with an abuser, because you're trying to please the abuser, you say things you don't actually mean. You say things like, "Baby, I would like to do whatever sexual act with you tonight," even though you don't mean it. You just want the man to be happy, yeah? But in that kind of situation, I would thoroughly advise you not to say things you don't mean. Okay, don't say things like this, because your text messages can be used against you to prove that you actually wanted things like this, and this was not coercion. You were not forced to do it. You were a willing participant, and consent was given by you based on the things you wrote in your text messages. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you have any more things to add to the ladies, please put it down in the comment section below. Let's have a conversation about this, and you can also give an example of, or like a real life scenario, maybe from someone else's experience or your experience personally, as to how text messages can be used against you, not just only in court, but as evidence against you even in life, okay, or in an argument. It can be used against you. Okay, so I'll just like to remind you that context is everything, yeah, but defense lawyers often cherry pick text to discredit the victims, and this is why I want women to be aware that text messages can be weaponized against you. So try to avoid saying certain things via text messages. I think this cannot be overemphasized. Now, the next thing I'd like to point out from one of the lessons I learned from this case is the age difference between Cassie and Diddy, and also the power difference. So Diddy had all the cards in his favor, okay? Cassie was just 19 when they started dating and being in a relationship, while Diddy was in his 30s. He was in his late 30s. Do you know the mental capacity of someone in their late 30s? I know how I was when I was in my late 20s, okay, compared to when I was a teenager, and it is like a massive difference. And also, Diddy is a powerful person. He is also someone that is legally knowledgeable, because he works with lots of lawyers. He drafts different contracts, different NDAs. So I can call him a lawyer by association, because he has been in business for so long. Like, he has legal knowledge. He knows the power and the role of documentary evidence. So if you look at the text messages between Diddy and Cassie, you would not see Diddy saying anything coercive in text. So Cassie does not have anything to prove that Diddy was coercing her to do things, except from, I think all the evidence Cassie has is like hearsay, either hearsay or like direct evidence that she's giving, okay? So Diddy is someone that has legal knowledge. He knows how to avoid things. He's a business mogul, so he has been in different legal situations. He knows how to get around this type of things, and he was with a teenager. And this looks like a situation of grooming. You are grooming someone to be what you want, and with the freak offs, because Diddy introduced Cassie to freak offs, so he groomed her to be what he wants. People like this will not follow someone their age, because if a man in his late 30s follow a woman in her early 30s, he knows that she knows what she wants. She knows how she likes to perform certain sexual acts. So it's difficult to teach old dogs new tricks, okay? So for predators and perverted people, they would groom a younger generation, because they don't have a mind of their own yet. So it's easier to bend, mend, and shaping them to your liking, and that is exactly what Diddy did. So I would always advise younger people, especially when you are not 25, because 25 is when your brain matures. So when you are less than 25, please avoid being with someone that is way older than you. Like, the age gap is astronomical. Please avoid it. Like, please avoid it, okay? And also avoid someone that is way more powerful than you, that controls you. It controls your life with his money and his power, because Cassie was signed into Diddy's record label, so it was controlling her music career, it was controlling everything about her. And there's also that fear of, if I leave him, I'm going to lose all these things, I'm going to lose my means of livelihood, I'm going to lose everything about me. And by the way, Diddy also filmed these freak offs, and he threatened Cassie, he threatened to post and release Cassie's video to the world. Can you imagine that? Having your video, that kind of intimate video, especially when it's not with your boyfriend, it's another man, but people can't see Diddy in the video yet because he's just watching on the side, recording them. So imagine having that in his back pocket. So Diddy had that card in his back pocket. So I know that Cassie tried leaving Diddy multiple times, but he always threatened to post it, and she didn't want her mom to see it. She did not want the backlash, so she just stayed with Diddy. Okay, so she stayed in fear, and nothing about this is amazing. Okay, ladies, so I'll just like to say, just avoid cases where there's like power imbalance. I'll give you examples of situations like that. It could be a manager controlling when and where an artist performs, which is what Diddy was doing to Cassie, because like I said, she was signed to his record label, so he controlled everything about her. And I would also like to point out that these freak offs lasted for sometimes 5 days. Can you imagine? So Cassie had to be so high to be able to perform at that level. Like, she was always high. Most times she doesn't even remember the freak offs. Okay, and the next example I'd like to give you is a boss demanding loyalty in exchange for career advancement. That's already a power imbalance, and it can make you do anything. Okay, next example I would like to give is an older partner isolating you emotionally or financially. Diddy did these two things to Cassie. He isolated her from her friends, family, and he also isolated her financially. Okay, so legally, courts are starting to see these cases as coercive control. Even if there's no physical abuse, it's about manipulating freedom of choice. Okay, so I'll just like everybody to keep that in mind. These are very important points, and I would like ladies, especially the younger generation, to remember this and not make the mistakes of the older generation. Okay, so now the next point I would like to point out is the danger of NDAs and silence agreements. Okay, so NDAs are non-disclosure agreements, and these are agreements that most powerful people use. So if you're going to work with like artists, people like Davido, Burna Boy, let me give you a Nigerian artist, they would surely make you sign an NDA. Okay, even if you are their girlfriend. I think some of them make their side chicks sign NDA agreements. The last scandal between Burna Boy and one of his side chicks, she said they seized her phone when she went to his place. So these are things that celebrities do. You can't have your phone around them because they don't want you posting things that they don't want out there. Yeah, so they will make you sign NDAs and silence agreements. So non-disclosure agreements protect them. Yeah, and people like Cassie and many women in the entertainment industry likely signed NDAs at some point, and these documents are designed to protect privacy, but often they protect the powerful at the expense of the powerless. So NDA misuse has become common in cases of sexual harassment and abuse. So if you look at like R. Kelly's case or Trump's civil cases, you can see that NDA was used to silence the victims. Okay, but the legal takeaway here today is that you cannot NDA your way out of criminal behavior. Yes, so even though you signed an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, as long as you witness something that is criminal, you cannot NDA your way out of it. You are legally obliged to speak up, and NDA cannot silence you. Okay, so this is a fact that most people don't know about. So even when they witness something, they can't speak up, so they're scared that they're going to be breaking that contract, which could cause some harm to them in the future. That's what they're thinking. But right now, I'm telling you that nobody can NDA themselves out of a criminal behavior, okay? So if it's anything criminal, you can speak up. You're not binded or you're not bound by your NDA agreement, okay? So that's one thing that I would like people to know, because yes, like they say, knowledge is power, and if you don't know these things, you would automatically assume that that also covers criminal activities and you can't speak up. But that's a lie. You can't speak up, and that is why when in this Diddy's case that is in court right now, they subpoenaed lots of Diddy's personal assistants. So most people, when they subpoena you, the court is calling you to either give documentary evidence or testify in court. There are different types of subpoenas. We're not going to go into that right now. But when they subpoena you, it's not like you want to testify, but you have to, because you're being called to testify in court. So most of them signed NDA agreements, but because this is a criminal case, and this is a criminal charge, they can actually testify and say what they saw, witnessed in court without getting any repercussion or consequence, because they're not breaking the NDA agreement. NDAs don't cover criminal activities. Know this, okay? And now the next thing I would like to point out is what the law says about consent and coercion, okay? So legally speaking, consent has evolved. It's not just about saying yes anymore. It's about saying yes freely, wholeheartedly, and without mental disruption. So if somebody is high on drugs or drunk, that person cannot give consent, okay? So even if a drunk person says yes to you, that consent is invalid, because the person's mental capacity is not 100%. The person might not know what they are saying or doing, okay? So this is where consent gets a little bit tricky. Someone can say yes to you, but the person might be scared for their life, that if I say no to you, you might harm me. So in that kind of situation, consent, it was not actually given, it was coerced. They were threatened or scared about the repercussion of saying no to you, okay? So because someone says yes does not mean automatic consent. So this is what we need to also notice and point out, and this is what the law is also recognizing, okay? So when drugs, threats, manipulation, or financial dependence are involved, the law may classify that consent as invalid. And in Cassie's case, if she was being drugged, filmed without consent, and financially tied to Diddy, then a yes wasn't truly free. That's coercion, and it's criminal. In the case against R. Kelly, prosecutors used similar evidence: financial control, grooming, and fear to argue that consent was never possible. That's the same angle prosecutors are now taking in Diddy's federal investigation, okay? Okay, so how can we protect ourselves as women? So now, if you find yourself in a situation that feels off to you, the first thing you should do is to start documenting. I don't want, because our mind always plays tricks on us, and you are thinking I might be crazy. This is not actually happening, because of course your abuser is gaslighting you, definitely. So start documenting everything. Document everything, so you have this in your book. Document how you feel, okay? So you understand your feelings, okay? So either you document it through by journaling, send yourself a private email, do something. Then the next thing you do is avoid discussing abuse in flattering tones via text, okay? You have to keep those text messages either neutral or silent. Don't flatter abuse. Don't say, baby, I would like to do this to you, because your abuser wants you to say it. So try to avoid it as much as you can. Don't say anything flattering via text. Like I said before, don't say anything you don't mean. Next thing I would like to say, I know Nigerians don't talk to therapists, but please, we have to take this point seriously. Talk to a therapist, okay? Talk to someone. Talk to ChatGPT. If you don't have the money for therapy, talk to a friend, talk to somebody, but I would rather you talk to a professional, but I know they're quite expensive. But please, if you have the money, try to talk to a therapist or talk to a lawyer. Talk to a lawyer early. If you tell your lawyer what's going on around you, your lawyer will be able to direct you, because your lawyer knows about all these things I'm telling you about, documentary evidence, knows about consent. So talk to a lawyer, okay? I think lawyers are more affordable than therapists, so please consult your lawyer. Consult a lawyer. I cannot overemphasize this, okay? So this does not mean you're actually taking action yet, but you need to know your strengths, you know the strength of your case, your weakness. If you're actually just overthinking it, just talk to someone that is more professional than you are. And also, try to be financially independent. I know parents have been saying this multiple times, that we should always try to be financially independent, but it cannot be overemphasized. Please, financial dependency is something that is very bad. Don't be dependent on someone else for financial situations, but being financially free is something that is, chef's kiss. So try to be financially free. Don't let your dependence you do not let it be tied into someone else's life, okay? Because that person will have so much power over you, over your life, that you won't be able to live even when you have to. Because if you leave, your life is technically over. There's nowhere for you to start from. So financial freedom is something that is super important. And also, don't ignore the red flags. And this is why I'm making the video right now. You might not know the red flags, but looking at Diddy's case, you can see and know red flags, okay? When you have someone that is too controlling, someone that calls you 24/7, that does not allow you to have your own, that wants to know where you are, what you're doing, sometimes it seems like love, but it could be disguised as love, like, oh, so what are you doing now today, this and the third. But if he's calling you over and over again, my dear, that man is controlling, okay? So you have to be watching out for the red flags, no matter how little they are. Document it. Okay, he did this today. See if other things add up and take your decision from there, okay? As women, we often learn too late that love isn't always safe, and that power can be disguised as protection. Now, Cassie's story, whether you believe every detail or not, reminds us that you can be loved and still be armed. You can be smiling and still be suffering. And I guess that's where Nigerians coined the phrase suffering and smiling. Like, literally, you can be suffering and smiling, and that's what we see in Cassie's case, okay? So here's what I hope you take away from this. You have to be watchful when someone is overly generous too fast, okay? There is generosity and there's too much of generosity. Like, too much of anything, like they say, is not good. Too much of water can literally take a life, okay? So too much of generosity too fast, please be watchful of that. Just take your pen, put it in your notepad, put it in your journal or on your notes on your phone, and put red flag question mark, okay? So be cautious of it. Be cautious, take it into account. The next thing I want you to be cautious of is a love that isolates you. You shouldn't be isolated, even though you're in a new relationship. I know that things are new, fresh. You want to be with your partner for the most part of it, but it should not isolate you from family, friends, from things you knew before you met this person, okay? So when you see a love that wants you to be on your own, to be all for him, please be cautious of that. Be cautious of a love that isolates you. Be aware when someone owns your time, your money, and your image. These three things, you can also take them into account individually. If someone owns your time, that's very important. This one is always calling you 24/7, like almost literally every hour on the hour. You need to be careful about that, okay? So be cautious about it. This one is always calling you. Yes, it seems to be like loving. Oh, my man really cares about me. Does he care about you, or is he controlling, girl? You need to be careful. Also, when someone controls your money, what goes into your pocket, what leaves your account, what goes into your account, and what leaves your account. That's a very dangerous thing, because that means you are financially dependent on this person. And the last thing I mentioned is be cautious when someone controls your image. Now, what you wear, how you talk in public, how you appear in public is super important to this person, and the person owns your image. Now you don't have an image of your own. If you look at when Kim Kardashian was with Kanye West, you would notice that Kanye West owned Kim Kardashian's image. He controlled what she wore, how she presented herself, and the brand she publicized. And that is a very controlling nature, and this is just one thing we know about their relationship. And if you look at the person that Kanye West is currently with, you would see that he's the one that dresses her up. She's always almost half naked most of the time. You see her, and that is how Kanye likes them to be. Okay, so he controls her image. And speaking of Kanye West, do you know that Kanye West supports Diddy during this trial? Talks about, well, that's a whole nother story on its own. But you see that they have, like, they say bird of the same feather flock together, and you can see that they are of the same feather. They literally flock together. They have the same beliefs, the same mindset, and this is why they can be friends. Okay, I would like you to also know that what starts as a dream can quickly turn into a nightmare, because when someone holds all the keys to your life, I'm telling you guys, this is literally a nightmare situation. So the story I just described to you is not just like celebrity gossip. This is a pattern, and it happens in our day-to-day, in everyday activity. It happens. You see it. It's like a constant thing that happens, and this is why I want us to be aware of it. Okay, be aware of the pattern that happens behind closed doors, and please try to speak up when you do your research and find out everything and all the red flags. Please speak up. I know we're in a society that does not listen when a woman speaks up, but I'm telling you, I promise you, this is going to do you a whole world of good, because it would, number one, free you mentally, and it would also bring awareness for people out there, and it would also give other people the courage to speak up. Cassie speaking up right now, I think it has also encouraged other people to talk about their experience with abusers, and it also gives them the courage to speak up. Yes, she had lots of backlash along the way, but I think the message outweighs the backlash, and I think people that backlash the victims are people that I don't even know the words to use. I'm trying to be careful of the words I use on this platform, but I don't think they are mentally stable people. Okay, so I don't really take their opinions into account. Okay, so victims should never be blamed in situations like this, so please don't be afraid to speak up. And I know we're learning to speak up, and we're also trying to build each other up. Okay guys, so if this gave you clarity and confidence, please share it out there. Don't forget to subscribe and share it to other people that you think would benefit from this information. Okay, and please also share in the comment section about your opinion. Okay, tell me one red flag that you've learned along the way. Educate us, and also share your insights with us, so that we can also take from your information. And with that being said, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm Omowumi Olatibe, and you deserve more than silence. You deserve safety. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.